Released at the end of the 20th century in Japan, with the games being released in 2000 for North America and Oceania, and 2001 and 2002 for Europe and Korea, the second generation of Pokémon games was off to a start with Pokémon Gold and Silver. Expanding and improving on the features introduced with Pokémon Red, Blue, Green and Yellow, Gold and Silver were a commercial success and was followed up by a definitive version in the form of Pokémon Crystal shortly after. But this isn't exactly the game we have in mind today, and unlike the last time, I don't have April Fools to hide behind it. Today's game is Pokémon COCK 2, a sequel to the ROM hack Pokémon COCK. And while the first game was a ROM hack of Pokémon Red, this game is a ROM hack of Pokémon Silver, and unlike the first game where I was unable to find out who was behind it, I was approached by a creator by the name of Crafting Vegito who had made this ROM hack with his team, and presented it to me since I'd covered the first game, and special thanks to him for answering and clarifying questions I had when I was going through it. As you may have figured out, and if you haven't, this game uses a lot of obscene language and is definitely not for all audiences, so if you don't like strong language and sensitive themes, definitely stop here. I've tried to make this as tame as possible. The gameplay mostly follows the storyline of the Generation 2 Pokemon games, with Silver being the base. On being asked why Silver and not the definitive version of Crystal, Crafting Vegito had told me that this is because he really likes Lugia, and of course, why not use the game that represented it? The game has your player character start in the land of Johto, capturing Pokemon, battling them and fighting new trainers and new gym leaders. After the introduction by Professor Oak, who's as crass and obscene as ever, our player is tasked to see Professor Elm, the regional professor of Johto, to collect something from a man named Mr. Pokemon. To help our player, he gets a choice of 3 Pokemon to choose from: the Fire-type Cyndaquil, the Grass-type Chikorita, and the... is that a Slowpoke? Nonetheless, your starter seems to start overpowered already, and you're sent on your merry way while a stranger peeks into the lab who touches you when you confront him. When you get the thing from Mr. Pokemon, which happens to be a Pokemon egg, you will meet Professor Oak, who, after going off on a tirade, gives you the Pokedex and leaves. As you make your way back to New Riz Town, the stranger stops you and battles you, and seeing that I'd chosen Cyndaquil, fights me with a level 1 Slowpoke. After beating him and returning to Professor Elm to report on the stranger, you are sent on a journey that will change yours and everyone else's lives, for the worst given what this game has. But is this game any good? Find out in The Good. Like the first game, as unique as the dialogue gets, and that's being polite, you can't help but see the dedication put into changing a majority of the game's script. Approximately 75% of the game's text has been changed, and admittedly some areas have been left mostly untouched, and it was quite refreshing having a brief rest from a lot of the content. The gameplay is still what you would expect from the Generation 2 Pokemon games, and following in the footsteps of the first game, once you reach Violet City you will have access to free Master Balls which will catch any Pokemon without fail, and it's definitely worth stocking up and you'll understand why later. The game does have random Pokemon in different locations, and normally Pokemon that require trading to evolve can be found in the wild. Some locations, such as the Whirl Islands and Mount Silver near the end for example, have had shortcuts added so you can progress through the area to get to where you need to go, which does significantly remove a lot of the challenge and frustration it originally had. Special events such as the Bug Catching Contest, the Weak Siblings, Lapras on Friday nights are still around and can be interacted with, which I at least appreciate. However, that's about all for the good I've got, so let's move on to the bad. I've been very selective about what I've included in this video because a lot of the NPC dialogue and text will get me eviscerated by YouTube and is definitely not safe for certain people and groups. Like the first game, it does get pretty old pretty fast, and a lot of tasteless stuff in this ROM hack I had to power through because I like to finish the games I cover. I have come across a few graphical bugs which randomly plagued me, but they were pretty minor and disappeared once the text box went away. But they happened randomly enough not to be unnoticeable, and at best was a minor visual nuisance. There are moments where the dialogue repeats itself or has lots of line breaks or gaps, and I've even come across gibberish lines which, to be honest, just confused me. The game did have its share of game-breaking bugs. Ironically, one of them forces the game to reset when you beat the second gym leader, who just so happens to specialise in using bug Pokemon. This issue got repaired quite quickly, so props for that, but interacting with the statue that lists the names of trainers who have beaten the gym resets the game, and after having beaten the bug gym leader 4 to 5 times already before the original issue was fixed, I just decided not to interact with the statues anymore. The game, for whatever reason, seems to have stupidly powerful Pokemon around Violet City, the second city you go to in the game and the location of the first gym. After buying Master Balls, you may randomly find level 100 Aerodactyls on Route 31 and high level Pokemon on Route 32, which you can explore after getting your first gym badge. If unprepared, you're going to have a hard time as these overpowered Pokemon will tear your party a new one, and I got paranoid to a point where I kept a level 100 Aerodactyl I'd caught earlier in my party just in case for a large part of the game. That curse does however become a major benefit late into the game where you need to beat the final trainer of the game, and by that point your Pokemon should stand a decent chance against these monsters that you feared at the beginning for those sweet experience points. Because while rare candies can be purchased from the shop in Violet City, they are expensive and it's not really worth it knowing that you can train this way and buy multiple EXP shares from the shop to help your whole team out. There were also areas where I didn't encounter any Pokemon at all. These were more common during night, but no matter how long I spent searching, I just couldn't find anything, and after reaching out found that the encounters had been messed around with to a point where there were areas with no encounters that were left in because it would be funny and confusing. Definitely got me though, since the ideal time I had to play this game was at night. Other than that, I think I've talked enough here, so let's wrap up with the opinion. Congratulations Crafting Vegito and team, you got me to talk about this game for more than 4.5 minutes. But at the end of the day, the game is just a ROM hack of Pokemon Silver with different text, some shortcuts and weird Pokemon placement. At its core, the game is mechanically solid, having been unchanged from Pokemon Silver, but the dialogue and text does get very repetitive and tasteless. The inclusion of high-level Pokemon around Violet City wasn't a change I initially welcomed, but I was told that this only starts happening after you get Master Balls, so here's hoping you don't find yourself beaten down by random high-level Pokemon early, because the best way around it is just to throw a Master Ball to catch them and be on your way. There were other changes I picked up which seemed to have served no purpose but to be randomly confusing, such as the Pokemon cry for Magikarp being a different pitch. But at least this wasn't anything that drastically altered the game. There are definitely better ROM hacks around, but if you want rude, tasteless, edgy dialogue, then this is the one to look at, I guess. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Pokémon COCK 2 the Delibird sprite from Pokemon Silver out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. I'm definitely going to hell for this, aren't I? If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.